Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Today we'll be looking into where the news item yesterday, quite a number, a couple of them that we'll be touching on today. The president has approved a special salary for Nigerian teachers. Generally, things are brighter. We'll be looking into that for the noble teaching profession. And then we'll also be looking into the federal government's rebuff of calls to restructure, and indeed presidential spokesman calling people who are, speaking along that line as unpatriotic. But first of all, let's start off with the, it's just around the corner, the Ondo election, and our man Ayodele Ozubakun is in Ondo. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning, Yori.
Okay, so today is the day of the agreement signing. Give us your agenda for today, please.
Yes, the agreement signing, if you notice, it was done in Edo State, and it went a long way to forestall the breakdown of law and order in Edo State, coupled with all the candidates and that signed, that partook in that agreement. The same thing is about to be replicated here in Ondo State, and the 17 candidates are expected from all the political parties are expected to come here and just take this peace pact so that come Saturday, the 10th of October, we are going to have a kind of history exercise. I have Mr. Festus Okoye here with me from the Independent National Electoral Commission. And I want to ask, this exercise, we had it in Edo State, and we're going to have it now. How did it impact on the conduct of the exercise in Edo State and coming to Ondo State now?
We are confident that it impacted positively on the conduct of the election. If you noticed in Edo State, a few days before and even a few weeks before the exercise, there was tension, there was apprehension, there was violence. But the Oba of Benin intervened, all the stakeholders intervened, and the political temperature calmed down. So we also expect that with the signing of this peace accord, with the signing of this covenant, that all the political parties, we know that they have a responsibility to maintain peace and also have a responsibility to play by the rules of the game. So we are confident that the moment this peace agreement is signed, all the political parties and all the candidates and their supporters, we know that they have a covenant with the people of Ondo State to maintain peace and orderliness throughout the process of this election.
I want to thank you, Mr. Festus. Okay, so usually what we are saying here is that we have the former head of state, that's the former General Abdul Salam Abubakar, is going to lead this process, and the candidates are coming in one by one. I also have the Director General of the Matikuka Center here with me, and for the record, what's your name?
My name is Reverend Father Atabari Kindo. I'm the head of Secretariat for the National Peace Committee, and also the Executive Director of the Kuka Center.
Kuka Center. Yes. Now, how did this impact on what we had in Edo State, and what do you expect from the exercise here in Ondo State?
We expect a lot. The first thing we are expecting is that the success of this election is going to be a collective partnership. Everybody's hand must be on decks. And that was exactly what happened in Edo. And then the second thing is that absolutely, it's not just the ceremony itself and the optics. We did a lot of background work, private meetings, private phone calls, negotiations and mediations that have actually led up to the moment that we have. So we hope
all those people.
Absolutely. So we hope that the process itself will be successful. But beyond the signing of the accord, that people will conduct themselves in a very peaceful manner, and that eventually the elections will be peaceful, fair, credible, safe, and successful.
I want to thank you, Reverend Father Makedo.
Thank
you so much.
Thank
you. And we wish you the best of luck in today's signing. Yes, the governor of Ondo State just entered, and other candidates are seated, and they're waiting for this event to start in NS, Yori.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Ayo. This was just a very quick one to touch base with you in Ondo. If there's any need for it, of course, we shall be back within the program, and I'm sure the TVC News will be covering everything else that's going on about that event. Okay, now back in studio here, my guest is Mr. Monday Onyekachi Ubani. I call him MOU. He's a lawyer and public affairs analyst. Good morning, Onyekachi, and thank you very much for making the time for us.
Thank you, and I call you Chief Yori. Thank you for having me.
Touché. Yori will just do for me. Now, we want to look at the, as I said at the top of the program, the calls for restructuring that, you know, a number of groups have called for it, you know, regional groups all over the country. It has been on for a while. Over the weekend, Pastor Enoch Adeboye also added his voice to the long list of people who are talking restructuring. But it would appear that going by federal government spokespeople, Femi Adesina and Garba Shehu, they didn't take too kindly to it. In fact, they went as far as referring to people who are calling for restructuring as unpatriotic. Okay, we'll come to address, you know, those issues. But perhaps the question it first of all brings out is, what exactly is the state of our union that has, if you want, invited these calls?
Thank you, Chief Yori, once again for having me. If you have noticed, there has been a resurgence of the agitation for separatism. It shows that there is something that is fundamentally wrong with the system, with the union. The union is not healthy, and that is the reality. And when you have a baby that is very sick and you are the parent, it behoves on you that responsibility that is expected of you to look at that baby critically, either by taking that baby to a medical doctor who will do the diagnosis and probably make a better prescription. The country is not okay. The country is clearly sick.
Okay.
In terms politically, economically, socioculturally, virtually every aspect of our national life is showing decay. And people have maneuvered and looked at all the indices that have brought this sickness and probably make a prescription that is not working. And they have probably, you know, stick to this issue of restructuring. And over time, this government, you know, that came also on the throes of issue of restructuring. That's one of the promises they made to Nigerians when they were campaigning, that the system is flawed, that the system is sick, that when they come in, they will correct the imbalance in the system. They made that promise to Nigeria. It is there. It's on the record. Yeah. And so people are now saying, since they came in, they have not taken any practical step, you know, towards restructuring Nigeria. And the system is not showing sign of health. Yes.
Maybe we'll come to we'll come to that, because as you were just making that particular point, Governor Kayode Fayemi has also spoken on this matter and has said inter alia that look, the APC has, as a party, has never jettisoned the idea.
Yes.
Because, as you've just pointed out, it's something that's fundamental. But the spokespeople, again quoting Adesina and Shehu, they have said that, one, it's a distraction. Two, it's a ploy by opposition to this government, especially in this time when government needs its total focus to address serious issues such as, you know, the pandemic, maybe even insecurity. But Femi Adesina also went. Femi Adesina went as far as accusing people who might be sympathetic to this particular line of conversation of feeling thwarted that Labour had, you know, taken the path of honor, because otherwise they were going to hide under the aegis of the strike to wreak havoc in the land and wreak havoc on this government. So clearly, these are people that know their words, and one can, from their words, take the seriousness with which government is taking all of this. In other words, government is not receptive. Shehu said that the president would not be intimidated, would not be rushed. So there's an absolute rebuff. What do you think of the rebuff? Can you understand the position of government?
A very wrong position. If there is any rebuff that is coming from the government over this issue, that is very fundamental. And the tagging of those who are, actually echoing this view that we need to restructure Nigeria as being unpatriotic is the most unfortunate statement ever to be made, by the presidency. Take the personality of Reverend Adeboye, who from records has been very sympathetic to this government and have even sometimes taken practical steps of visiting the president and showing solidarity and concern. And most times he has been criticized heavily by the masses of his support to this government that many of them have found, in actually not gravitating towards their wishes and aspirations. This is a man that has shown absolute support and loyalty, to this government. Now, if such a person says something that has to do, you found that it's like a criticism, you will first of all say, this man has always shown support. Why is he at this point in time saying this thing? This thing he's saying, does it even make sense at all? Now, for you to write everyone off who echoes any opinion that you consider to be a criticism of your government is one of the most intolerant aspects of this governance. I can't fathom. I cannot understand it.
Even Arewa Consultative Forum, ACF, that has been a traditional support of this government, has also sort of, it's done an open-ended kind of endorsement in the sense that it is saying that it's not as if it can't be discussed, but people have to change their tone. So you begin to get some of those conversations, some of those perhaps sentiments that we've heard in the past, that one of the griefs, one of the beasts of Arewa, from what we read, is that people should stop referring to the North as parasitic. And that if they want us, if they want us in the North to even listen and then, cooperate, they should just change their language. That started off another whole round of argument.
No, but
so you see,
it is wrong for anyone to call any particular region as parasitic. If you look at all the regions contextually and realistically too, there is no region that does not have anything they are bringing to the table.
Indeed.
My own findings is that the North has a lot of natural deposits that if we as a nation, are serious, we are very serious as a nation, and exploit them, Nigeria is going to be one of the best and the richest country in the entire world. I'm talking about what we have deposited in the northern region. So there is no region that is parasitic. Okay. The most important language we should employ is for people to understand that we had a country from 1960 to 1966 when we ran a properly federal system of governance that have, surpassed us in terms of economic buoyancy and all that. We are trailing behind Nigeria as a country. We had a constitution that was regional. We had governance that was regional. And this, in terms of revenue, was controlled by the regions, and we are paying certain percentage to the federal government. And the system was running very perfectly. To the extent that some regions were even regarded as one of the most growing, fastest growing economy in the entire world. I'm just saying it in 60, Remember that Chief Awolowo wanted to introduce free education in the South, in the region, for Nigeria as a whole. They said some other regions said they don't have the money to operate it. They must say, fine, my region will operate it. And they went along. What we're saying is that no region should withhold or draw back any region that want to make progress when you run a properly federal system of governance. There should be a devolution of power so that we can begin to develop at our pace.
Talking about devolution of power, this reminds me of the latest, shall we say, voice to have entered the conversation, talking about Pastor Enoch Adeboye.
Yes.
He's a mathematician, as he pointed out when he was invited to a forum. He's also a pastor, and he has said mathematicians come up with all these kind of ideas. But he was advocating a system that is uniquely Nigerian.
That's right.
And he said these are just rough notes, mental rough notes, but what prevents Nigeria from having a president and a prime minister? What prevents Nigeria from having a governor and a premier, so that all power is not concentrated, specialized, people sort of divvy up the functions of state? Maybe that's where people like Mr. Garba Shehu begin to talk about was it Garba Shehu or Femi Adesina? They both have a united message.
Of course, presidency that speaks.
Unpatriotic. Now, labeling anything unpatriotic, I imagine the government probably sees it almost as seditious, They haven't actually used the word, but you could see that with the seriousness and the strength of the language, they just don't seem to like it at all. Now, can it be wished away, perhaps, is the matter. That's why I started off with, what exactly is the state of our union? And you've given some ideas that has,
the statistic.
Well, you think so?
Yeah, I think so. And that's why I said that there has been a result.
Because we have 60...
Haven't you noticed? You said it.
We have 60 years.
Almost all the groups in this country, including the Arewa, are clamoring for a second look at our structure. That you cannot operate this over-centralized system of governance in a country with so many differences, in terms of religion, in terms of tongue, in terms of tribe. That the best system to run is a federal structure, that ensures devolution of power to the federating units so that they can begin to develop at their pace.
As you know, I think it was ACF, Arewa Consultative Forum, that pointed out that we don't actually all have a unanimous understanding of what exactly restructuring is.
Can we define it? I'm here.
Some say they want fiscal federalism.
Yes.
Some say they want a federating unit.
Yes.
So it's like, it's a conversation out there, isn't it?
Can I tell you that it's calling a dog a bad name in order to hang it?
Okay.
If
so when people say they don't understand what it means.
They are pretending. Virtually everyone that mattered, that have ever supported federal, a proper federal system of governance, are in this APC government. We heard them loud and clear. Over time, this Professor Sibajo, who today is the vice president, when he was the attorney general, took the federal government several times to court over issue of devolution of certain responsibilities to the federating unit. And he succeeded in them. And he has always canvassed it. The same thing with Bola Tinubu, who is the leader of APC. He has always canvassed it. So virtually everyone that matters in this particular political party are people who have propounded and never believed in it. So if anyone now comes and tells, the issue...
We don't even know what people mean by
restructuring. They are lying to us.
Okay, one moment. Let me take a caller. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Mr. Ubani.
Yeah, Mr. George, hi.
Uncle Yori, I do not think those who are calling for restructuring are unpatriotic. But I do not agree at the same time with people who are calling for restructuring. It's a misplaced call. Why am I saying so? First of all, we have to define what restructuring they are advocating now. Most of the calls are actually separatist calls. There's a whole lot of difference between restructuring and separation. What they are looking for is actually separation. And separation cannot help us in this country. If you make this country today to be 50 countries, you will still have separatist calls. Let me give you just one or two examples, Uncle, if you give me the time. If you make Osun State, for example, a country, you remember Ife and Modakeke, as close as they are, were they ever agreeing? Such things will resurface. Go to the southeast. If you are from Enugu and you are working in the civil service of Ebonyi, you cannot rise beyond a certain level. Go to, is it the north? Taraba and Benue. Intertribal conflicts everywhere. All is because politicians like to capitalize on these things if they do not get what they are looking for.
But a lot of the commentators that we're hearing from now, they actually are against a breaking up, which the presidential spokespeople have sort of, been emphasizing. They are saying absolutely no to that, but that we can restructure to what they probably see as a more a fairer and more efficient society. And we lost Mr. George, but we can pick it up from there.
The point is that Mr. George does not. There is a clear misconception, and I don't know whether it is done with emotive. If you are in a relationship that is very suffocating, and you tell your partner, please, can we really have a relationship that is highly beneficial, symbiotic, and the person refuses, what will you, offer? You say, please, if you cannot allow me to really enjoy this relationship, can we totally separate? Nigerians are not asking for total separation. Nigerians are asking that the relationship is suffocating. And it's not allowing us to, move the way we ought to move. Can we do it? He said no. What else would you ask for in such a matrimony? Where your husband or your wife does not want you to really, enjoy that relationship, and you're enduring it. So, why should we be enduring relationship in this country, sir?
And there are calls for a referendum
yes.
to help us understand what it is actually that we want.
There was no time there was agreement to join everyone together. If you remember what happened in 1914. There was no consensus at them. There was no meeting. There was no round table discussion. For the sake of the economic interest, the white brought all of us together. And people are now saying, after how many years, can we really sit down and agree? And if we agree, what are the terms and conditions? And somebody now says, politicians want to separate the country. That is not the issue. Politicians are saying that you want to have a relationship that is highly beneficial, that will benefit you, that will benefit me. And we feel mutually loved.
Yeah.
But here, the relationship is suffocating. Well, and we're not making progress.
Your words,
yes.
if you think that. We've just come out of the 60th independence anniversary.
That's right.
And I think Pastor Adeboye was looking... he's just the latest. When we mention him, there's so many voices.
A clergyman, for that matter, who has shown support to this government in every respect.
Now, he was saying another 60 years of Nigeria, if there still is an entity that we call Nigeria. Probably the ears of the presidency caught that, and they didn't like the sound of that at all. But let me put myself on pause. And hello, good morning, Garba.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning to Mr. Ubani there.
Yeah, Mr. Garuba, how are you, sir?
I'm good. You see, this is a very interesting and important topic that we're supposed to take it to a national discourse, honestly.
Okay, you're calling from Makurdi, not from Abuja.
Yes.
So
yes.
You're not Garuba Shehu.
No.
Okay. No, I just wanted to be sure. I just wanted to be sure.
So, Uncle Yori, to be sincere, issue of restructuring is something that we need to look at it holistically.
But the presidency doesn't think, the presidency is saying it's a distraction and it's ill-motivated.
I didn't believe in that. It's not a distraction. There are some individual, honestly, that is distraction. But when somebody says something, don't look at the person that said it. Look at what he's saying. You understand? There are some Nigerians, holistically, they mean well for the country. That's why they are calling for the restructuring. There are some Nigerians that made distraction. There are some, they are political opposition. But if you look at all of it like that, now look at what they are trying to tell us to do. Let's restructure so that at least at the end of the day, we come to agreement and understanding. If you look at what is happening in the country now, we are more divided than ever. I'm saying issue of marginalization. If you look at it, there is no equity, justice, and fairness in the land.
Even in the independence, the theme of our 60th independence was togetherness,
Okay, how will we be together when there is no equity and justice and fairness in the land? Are you getting me? We need to give each and every region sense of belonging.
Okay. Thank you very much, Garuba. I've got to let go of you now. Thank you very much for calling in so we can get other calls.
Clear understanding of what we're talking about.
But how are we even sure that beyond the voices that are expert in getting into the media and thereby getting to us, that the ordinary people really indeed are desirous of restructuring? That's where the referendum that has also been called for.
I tell you this, for the interest of the mass, and they know it, and they are echoing it. We're on the street. We know that this relationship we have presently is not working out the way it ought to. He mentioned equity and justice. It's very important. It's very inherent. You don't mount togetherness. You don't mount unity. It's not a theory. It's something that has to be very practical. If you're talking about togetherness, in your policy pronouncement, in your policy implementation, in your lawmaking process, in governance, you ought to exhibit it. You don't just come and begin to beat me behind, and you come openly and begin to preach a different thing entirely. This government is, generally, Nigerian government, not even starting from this government, have always preached unity and have preached, equity and justice, but in practice.
Okay.
Say opposite.
One more caller. We got a caller. Hello. Good morning, Mr. Yakub.
Hello, Chief Yori, can you hear?
We just lost you. The way we're sounding,
yes, sir.
If somebody were to just catch us now, he'd think we had a problem in this country. What governance is going on, advances are being made, the development of the infrastructure is going on. Government will give a favorable report of itself, indeed backing itself up with facts and figures. So all of this is going on. And now this conversation is probably why the government is not, as the youth say nowadays, not feeling this line of conversation at all.
They're not feeling because they are totally separated from the people. Anytime you see leaders in governance, who are totally separated from they don't feel what the people feel. The aspirations of the people are not the aspirations. They have a different thing entirely at variance.
You're giving the impression that the presidency, I mentioned the presidency because they are people in the engine room, that they're sort of separated and removed.
They're in a cocoon.
You can't know that.
Okay, because
that happens to be
what
your
I'm trying
opinion.
to say is whatever they say, most times is clearly at variance with interest and feelings of the people generally.
Which is contrary to what Mr. President always says.
No.
In fact, Garba Shehu had said that Mr. President will only do that which will benefit the 200 million Nigerians.
And he is not taking that statistics.
That he has sworn
and I'm telling you that in their cocoon, they are not even saying what the majority of Nigerians are saying. Can they come to the streets?
Okay, Mazi Okorafo, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Ubani.
Mr. Mazi.
Sir, Sayori, let us face reality. You see, Nigeria, we need restructuring. Now, listen, let me give you 3 or 4 points. Look, our universities, cut-off points to any course, for any course in any university in Nigeria, federal university is different. You come to state, is different. Now, come to state universities, indigenous, they pay different things, non-indigenous pay different things. That is in the state polytechnic or university, and we are saying we are one body, pay different. Now, look at the employment level. Do you know it's only in Nigeria that a graduate will finish, you will not get a job. But in those days, 60s and 70s, you will be at the university, like what Olisa said yesterday. When you be in their house, somebody will come to the university and interview you. By the time you finish, they give you employment data. What is happening today? Today, Mr. Yuri, somebody will start year 1 in university. Employment letter is already given to him, and somebody has graduated 5 years ago, you have not secured a job, and you are talking of one Nigeria. We have to face the reality. The best option, you saw what happened in Russia some years back, there was a referendum. Nigeria should come out with a referendum today or tomorrow.
Okay.
Let us decide either to restructure or not to restructure, because all this issue of saying is not happening, and it's not. Now,
Mazi, I got to let go of you now. I thank you very much for making the main point. I thank you very, very much. Now, I wanted to return so that you could continue, Onyekachi. The view of the president, at least I'm going by his spokespeople, is that Buhari has this whole matter of restructuring. There are processes. It's not as if he's dismissing it out of hand, but that the president has committed to work through the National Assembly as the representative of the people. And in any case, it's not very helpful. In fact, he said it was unpatriotic, as I said before. And he gave the impression that those that are calling for it are almost like enemies of state. Not that he used the word. Not that he used the word, but
by inference.
Thank you very much. So we go back to the presidency, and the president, according to his spokesman, saying that Mr. President's concern is the better interest of the 200 million Nigerians, and not, as they see it, a bunch of people who are agitating for their own selfish interests.
I don't know whether the president marks himself. I mean, give a mark, because when you are, the unexamined life is not worth living.
Well, okay.
Yes.
In closing, because we've got to let go of this subject matter.
You need to really examine what you are doing as a leader, and we saw the level of progress we are making. Other nations were envying us. Countries, whether it's really meeting the demands and needs of the people that you are governing. And if the president does that, he will be in a better position to appreciate what people are saying. Why there is issue of failure of leadership in this country? Mark my words, no matter who you elect today in this country, no matter how competent and intelligent that person is, if he goes into Nigeria and runs this country with this structure in place, he's going to be a failure. Well, I don't know what, I'm just telling you this.
Well, that's your own opinion. That's your view.
So it is important we know from Obasanjo's regime up to this point in time, 1999 to date, we have not had a country that all of us, will be very proud of in terms of having good governance, infrastructures, basic.
We've just celebrated 60 years.
Yeah, despite you have 60 years celebration. So why don't you now see, why is it that there is this recurring leadership failure over time?
Okay.
Could they emanate from the fact that it's issue of competence of the leadership, or even this issue of structure people are pointing out? And everyone seems to be pointing at the structure of the country, and you're not looking at it. So I am begging the president, because these are the promises he made. And then he set up a committee of El-Rufai. I don't know what recommendations they have made. That they should look at this structure. Now, it is out of patriotic zeal.
Okay.
Someone like Adegboye and all the rest who are clamoring for it are not asking for division of the nation. They want a country that all of us shall be proud of, including our children should enjoy this nation.
Although when you use the term leadership failure, that again is a view
there is a general leadership failure. It's our problem. It's a bend. And Chinua said it. The problem of this country is the issue of leadership. And it
from
is
beginning,
born,
from 1960.
Yeah, born from the issue of structure. We need to restructure this country, sir. And it is better for us to do it. The earlier we do it, the better for all of us. Or keep on postponing the evil day.
I think that's a fine place to leave it. Thank you very much, Onyekachi.
And
indeed, we're going to keep this conversation up. You didn't seem very much in favor. Maybe there are people who see differently. Whatever be the case, we're going to keep this conversation up and get various shades of opinion on this particular, what has become now a national topic.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much
once
again.
For having me.